Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Southwest Connections, our campus-based show that introduces you to many of the great people that make Southwest the wonderful place that it is. I'm Bill Malso, and I'm your host of the show. Let's get to meet this week's guest. Welcome, Kandy Noles Stevens from the Education Department. Welcome, Kandy. Glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you here to Southwest. Maybe both times.
Yeah, absolutely. So we moved to the Marshall area for my husband's work way back in 1994. And I have been a Mustang ever since then. I came here with the intent of taking education classes and was here for a brief period and got hired by the university. So I was here formerly in the Learning Resources Department, which is now different pieces and parts all over campus. And while here, I finished my teaching degree or teaching licensure. I didn't actually get an undergraduate degree. And then I got my master's degree. Then I left to go teach at some regional high schools and middle schools, and then have come back now as a teacher educator.
And you're with us in the education department, and you're part of a rather unique program. Let's talk first of all about what College Now is. It's a rather unique program that actually kind of got its start here at Southwest and serves a number of schools across the state. Now it's really grown. Tell us a little bit about what College Now is as a concurrent enrollment program.
Absolutely. So College Now, which did really have a great start here at SMSU, and we're one of the larger programs within the state, is a program that is a dually enrolled course structure. So high school students, typically juniors and seniors in high school, take courses for college credit. The courses are taught by partner educators at the high school, but overseen by a faculty mentor like myself here on campus.
So one of the unique things that we've done now is, and this is where you come into play, is that we've got something going in education. Typically our College Now or concurrent enrollment program courses have kind of been liberal arts or those general studies that students can take to go as part of the Minnesota transfer curriculum. This education piece is something new. Tell us a little bit about this new program that you help lead up.
Yeah, so this is really exciting because, as you said, most of the courses fall under the liberal transfer or the liberal education program. Back in our day, there was the generals.
Generals.
Right. And so today, the education program is the first of its kind in that it is a pre-professional series of courses. So the students take the courses and they don't really count towards the generals per se. They count towards those who are genuinely interested in a career in education. The difference lies in that while many of the courses in the transfer curriculum are also foundational pieces to future careers or future majors, these are specific to a major.
So where are we offering this program across the state of Minnesota right now?
Oh goodness, where aren't we offering it? We keep getting more and more requests to offer it. So we are as far north as Pelican Rapids and Breckenridge. We go way over to the Twin Cities. We are down in the southwest corner of Adrian and all the way over to Byron and Grand Meadow in the southeast corner, and everywhere in between.
Do you know roughly how many students we have enrolled in this this program?
It varies semester to semester. Right now, we have about 100 this semester, and fall tends to be a little bit larger. We tend to have a few more schools that do it in the fall because it fits in their high school curriculum.
So I know that you're a huge advocate for education, and you're always, our previous conversation, we were just talking about some things happening in education, and you're a huge advocate. And tell us a little bit about how you go about sharing that passion with students who are thinking about going into a career in education.
The thing about teaching and with any helping career is there really is a noble foundation for that. In teaching and in education, we educate all the future careers. And so we have that opportunity. Krista McAuliffe talked about this when she was preparing for her space shuttle work. And she said, "I teach because I touch the future." And I think it's really an inspirational part of teaching is that we have the opportunity to take students and to help them see their yet. And a lot of times you hear people like, "I'm not really good at math," for example. I'm a math teacher and I'm a science teacher. And I always say, "Yet." And then we get the opportunity to talk about the power of yet and how transformational education is, and the fact that if we work hard, we are persistent in learning, we do the things that are necessary, we can get to yet. And I think that's the real thing about teaching these young kids in high schools about a future in teaching, is that you get to help students actualize their yet and what they want to do and see their dreams come true.
So we're teaching an intro to education class.
Yes?
Are we teaching others? And tell us a little bit about what are in those courses that students can try out.
Okay, so in Ed 101, which is the Intro to Education class, it is exactly the same as it is here on campus. The students have a lecture portion of the class where they learn about the foundations of education. Who are the big theorists? What do they say about education? What's the purpose of education? What's the philosophy of education? And students then begin to develop that. But the other thing that's unique to SMSU is we are one of the schools that say, we don't want to wait until you're a junior in college to get you out into a classroom to see if this is really what you want to do. We get you into a classroom in your first class. This could be a high school junior, college freshman on up. And they actually have the opportunity to be in a field placement where they observe, they teach, they do all the things that a teacher would do to sort of dip their toe in the water a little bit to say, oh, this is really what I want to do. And for many of them, they sort of catch the bug. Now they're ready to be teachers because they're excited about the learning. The other class that we currently offer is our Child Growth and Development class. And in that class, we explore the milestones that children go through from birth to age 18. And we look at all of the development. And then we also look at things in that class, such as what happens if there is something that is atypical about that child. You know, I have a child who was born deaf, hard of hearing, and we talk about how that could delay development, for example, for a child. And we also are hoping to offer a third class, and that's through a summer academy model. And that would be the class that all teachers in Minnesota are required to take, which is the Human Relations course.
So our College Now program is rather unique in that you're partnering with professionals out in the high schools. Tell us a little bit about that relationship, on how you work with those professionals, and then how you also get the opportunity to interact with those students in those courses.
It is the best part of my job. And, you know, as a former middle school and high school teacher, I get the joy of being back into the classrooms and interacting with the, secondary educators who are teaching these courses. So I do something a little bit atypical than most of the College Now faculty mentors. I host what I call a Zoom sip and chat. And we get together in the evenings, once or twice a semester, and we just sit down and we talk. We talk about what's going well. We talk about ideas on how to enrich the curriculum. We talk about, what maybe you're doing in your school that maybe I could do in my school to help the program grow. And to also give ideas, because we have metro teachers and we have very rural teachers, on what something might look like in a metro school that those students would never get to experience in a rural school. So I think of us as a family, and I always refer to them as my College Now family, and we have that opportunity to just interact and they also have that connection to me. They don't have to wait for an email necessarily. They get the opportunity to interact as teacher with faculty mentor. So then from there, they tell me about the needs that they have in their classroom that they would like for me to meet with students. Maybe it's teach a lesson. Maybe it's invite them to come to campus and be a part of that. And that's another piece that's a little different for education from the other classes. Or maybe it's to just sit down with the students and help them with an assignment. Or finally, talk about next steps, like what's college really like? Because there's a lot of high school kids that have a lot of questions about, is it really hard to go to college? And it's nice to be able to, kind of talk the truth about that, but also talk about that there's professors just like me. We have oodles of them here at SMSU that, genuinely care about your success, and we want you to be successful. So how do you build those relationships with professors?
There are two parts to that answer, and I think the one with the professionals, I think, is really important, that our teachers today have so much going on, and when they have that opportunity to just spend some time talking with colleagues about best practices and and have that professional development is really what it is. I think that's a great asset that we can bring to it. The other part is, something I wanted to follow up on a little bit is that our goal here is to try and encourage students to go into the education field, number
Yes.
one. But number two, we'd love to have them continue on as students at SMSU. So what are some of the things that you do to sell them, if you will, on SMSU and encourage them to pursue their education further here?
So I speak to the realities, and I try to put as many SMSU professors in front of my students, not just me. I'm just one person. But we do host twice a year, so fall semester, spring semester, a day called Students Aspiring to be Educators Day. And basically, it's sort of like a day in the life of an education major. And the students come on campus, and I have different professors and different colleagues around campus that do little mini activities with the students. And then we have some grant funds that allows us to give them some gifts like books from a national best-selling author who has written a book called I Wish My Teacher Knew. And it really connects with students of all levels. And so in that, a lot of students send me messages back that say, that was the coolest experience I've ever had on a college campus. It isn't a tour necessarily. It's just to allow them to see and envision themselves as being successful. So that to me is really critically important, that they get to see that and feel that. The other thing is that I do a thing where I make sure that I welcome them in the fall and I have them over for supper, and I do little gift packages for them at semester end, so finals, or, send them off, welcome them back. And, I'm a mom first. And so just some of those mom touches I carry on with that tradition for this program.
Well, like you said, there are a lot of people like that here at SMSU. So
yeah, I'm not the only one.
Anytime we can share that, it really has a really lasting impression. So now this program's been in place, I think 4, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see some successes. And I know you talked about one who's going to be a graduate here. So tell us a little bit about her success and how that's worked.
So I met Becca in her junior year of high school, and she was at Wyndham. And actually, one of her classmates is right behind her. He will be graduating with the fall group. And so I met both Becca and Kobe in that class. They were down in Wyndham, one of our first schools. And she just continued on. Her family are also SMSU grads, so she had that connection. But she knew that this was the place for her. So I had the joy of having her in high school, but then I also had her as an on-campus student as well. And she is out doing her student teaching right now at St. James and will be graduating here in May. And we couldn't be more proud of her.
I think a nice, neat connection is that the faculty member that she was taught by in high school was actually another alum. So, Paula Matson. So that's kind of another neat connection to see a couple generations here of SMSU people.
You bring
connecting.
up a great point. A lot of our teachers who are our secondary teachers teaching this have some connection to SMSU. I mean, that wasn't the intent of the program, but it has sort of turned into that either they got their undergraduate or they got their master's degree, or they have a child who went here and they know the program. So they have really been invested in pushing this in their high schools.
So we talked earlier about you being a great advocate for education, and educators the last couple of years have really seen an amazing, they've had a lot of asked of them. They've really had to be creative. They've had to adjust on the fly, and they've been really stressed and taxed. And I think there's been a great appreciation by families to understand that, wow, our teachers do a lot. When they had to go and teach their own kids, at home there for a period of time, they really got an appreciation for what our teachers do on a daily basis. How has that changed you as an educator in working with up and coming teachers as well as some of these seasoned teachers?
Bill, that's a really great question. I think the thing that happened for me was something that actually transpired here on campus with my own students. And it really was a light bulb moment for me to think about, oh my goodness, I really need to be making sure that this goes out to others. And essentially, as a former high school teacher, I will say I committed this grievous act. And having a student who maybe is struggling a little bit and maybe exhibits some apathy to their learning, and you say like, hey, you got to get this together because when you go to college, you're on your own, kid. And what you mean by that is you want them to have some intrinsic motivation. what translates into what, young, impressionable students hear is that I can't ever ask for help. And so that I have to go to college and be completely independent. And the first time a student said that to me, when I said, hey, we've got all these sources, why aren't you using them? I was here on campus, and they said, I can't. I'm supposed to be independent. Oh, it was so heartbreaking. And so I realized that I needed to change that into, we don't need to be independent. We need to be interdependent on others. So that really got me thinking about these young teachers and our, secondary teachers who are teaching, that it's been hard. Teaching and learning in a pandemic is not for the faint of heart. It has been a really taxing and challenging situation. So being sure to incorporate the importance of taking care of you and being sure that you allow students to understand that sometimes maybe they just need a break. Step away for a little bit, break things into chunks. So it has changed the way I teach in order to make sure that I'm not just teaching content, I'm teaching students. My contract didn't say specifically what I was supposed to teach, but it says I'm supposed to teach students. And so that to me is really important, that we get the whole student across the finish line, not just, scores on a transcript.
So Kandy, one last question for you, and you've been answering this all the way along, but one last question for you, and that is, Kandy, if you could tell a student and their family why SMSU is the best place for them, what would it be?
I will go back to my family motto. We genuinely are a family here, and we know each other. You are not a number here. We care deeply about your success. When we have students that come for prospective student visits, usually the admissions folks say, well, I'll send someone to walk them back. And I always say, no, I'll walk them to where they need to go next. And it's intentional, because we sit in a meeting like this and we talk, and I wax poetically about how great SMSU is and that I'm an alum and I'm a mom of an alum. But then I walk the hallway with these students and I can greet students by name, and they get to see this isn't just lip service, that this is genuinely a university that cares about its students and that we do get to know them on an individual basis. And to me, that's what makes SMSU the best.
Absolutely. It's all about family.
It is.
Thank you, Kandy.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Well, be sure to check out everything else that's happening on campus. You can find us on all the social media channels, or check us out at smsu.edu. Once again, thank you to Kandy Noles Stevens from the Education Department here at SMSU. And be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks when I'll welcome in Natasha, Director of Financial Aid here at SMSU. Thanks for watching.